Alright, I have another article for us to look at. Let me just adjust the microphone. Okay, so this one sounds good, but I think I want to use this one. But I do still sound kind of far away, but alright, so if y'all can bear with me then. We can get this show on the road. So I do want to put this in the right category because it's considered news. Now keep in mind I haven't actually spoke and interviewed with these people, but these are YouTube videos that I have gathered from research I was doing, I guess you would say like why did or how did I even come across these videos? I don't know. However it happened, I did. But the first thing first we want to do is take a look at the missing and exploited children, because first thing first, nobody asked to be here. Now, we already looked at Marquez Cantrell from Atlanta, I think last time, and Jackson Smith, but I want to look at Jaheim West from Lithonia that has been missing for about 8 days now. He's 16. So it says here that he was last seen on February 26, 2022, and he's from Lithonia, Georgia. His date of birth is March 15, 2005. He's 16, black male with black hair and brown eyes. He's about 6'2", 145 pounds. That means he's, kind of slender built. And don't hesitate to call 911 if you see him. Also, you can call the 1-800-843-5678, which is also 1-800-THE-LOST. You can also contact the DeKalb County Police Department at 770-724-7750. Now, the other one, let's look at the Haya, if I'm saying her name right, Beckham. Now, she's been missing since February 15, which is almost 3 weeks. She's from Atlanta, Georgia. Her date of birth is January 21st, 2005, which means she's 17. She's a female, black, with black hair, and her eye color is other, they put here. But she's 5'5" and about 186 pounds. So both photos show of the Haya. She has a tattoo of Roman numerals on her chest and the black rose on her left shoulder. At 17, she already has tattoos. And so if anybody's seen her, don't hesitate to call 911. There's also the 1-800-THE-LOST number, which is 1-800-843-5678. You can call Atlanta Police Department emergency number, which is 404-614-6544. All right, so their parents definitely need them home. So please, anybody with any information, go ahead and submit that tip. You can also submit tips through online, like if you're on your computer and you don't want to be talking, or you're on your phone and you don't want to be just talking about, hey, somebody is missing. And because they might not know, they could be in a state of mind to where they don't know that they're missing for whatever reason. So you can also go online to crimetips.com and submit a tip online. That way will also benefit, the whole community, because nobody asked to be here to be mistreated, and definitely not to be missing from their loved ones. It's definitely a very unfortunate circumstance and situation. So please be mindful that as being a human being, that for whatever lifestyle you lived growing up, whether your parents whether you had a silver spoon in your mouth or you barely had a meal, nobody ever has been asked to put in situations like this. And unfortunately, we live in conditions that just are not the best for some people, and just because some people have money and others don't, or color or gender, whatever, doesn't mean that, you know, we don't need help and we don't need the community to stand together and say, hey, this is wrong, I'm not going to be a part of it. You know, maybe that feels like an allergic reaction to some, but you know, just please try your diligence to put yourself in other people's shoes. Um, let's do better as a community. So now that we got the formalities out of um, place, who am I? You can call me Paige, as in AI. And I decided to do this channel to kind of put a voice to what I see going on, because it seems like other people have a different perspective, whether it's just because they want to take advantage of people or just because they just don't know. And I just kind of, I believe what they call this in theory or in history terms is muck ranking. It's like when you see something going on wrong with society, you pretty much write about it, whatever. So I came across this article here with this video here, and you have to excuse the background noise. So with this article here, I'm gonna turn down the elevator music, I like to call it. Now, this lady here, so the title of this video is called "Why Are Poor People the Scapegoat for Criminals and Law Enforcement?" I actually want to name it "Why Are Black Women?" But I want to be very inclusive. Keep in mind that this applies to marginalized people. Nevertheless, as I said, before that, if you take a man my same height and weight, he's stronger than I am. So that makes me marginalized because he's stronger than I am. So marginalized says here with the Google definition, it's an adjective of a person, group, or concept treated as insignificant or peripheral. Right? So,
peripheral.
Meaning like outer, not on the outermost, on the fringes. So while marginalized people the scapegoat for criminals and law enforcement. So I always knew that criminals were using marginalized people, but it never dawned on me that some people have just a different perception on who they feel like should be the marginalized. And I think we have to realize that even though people work for government entities, it don't mean that their opinion is what the government's opinion is. So let's keep that in mind when people act and say and do stuff as representatives for government entities or businesses. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's that business concept. It could just mean that's their personal perspective, but it also could mean that this is the underlying tone and the gist of things as it pertains to that government entity, especially if that person has a higher up title and so on and so forth. So I definitely don't want to put this sister on blast or anything of that sort. I just want to put that out there. I'm never into the business of pulling people down or anything of that sort. I just want you to understand what her perspective is, and maybe that'll help us as we deal with each other in society. So this sister was asked, what's the benefits of being an FBI special agent? And what her response was is that she gets to live in an upper middle class lifestyle in a safe neighborhood. You know, her and her family can live in a safe neighborhood. And when she said that, I kind of felt as if either I'm naive or her misconceived idea is definitely stroking people the wrong way, because if you take that kind of concept of, you know, I'm in an upper middle class neighborhood, you could kind of hypothetically say, so you saying people in poor neighborhoods deserve bad things to happen to them, right? To a certain extent. Hear me out. She said that she's allowed to live in an upper middle class neighborhood, and she equates that to safe first, safety, safe, upper middle class. So that's technically saying socioeconomics is a separating factor as it pertains to crime, you know, criminals. So kind of saying like, you know, the more money I have, the less I have to worry about dealing with, being, um, being around criminals, or being in an unsafe neighborhood, right? And we all know that, we've all have heard someone talk before and say, oh, this never happens in this neighborhood, until it happens, and then you kind of wonder, what do they mean by that? Are they saying that only bad things are supposed to happen to poor people? Or, it kind of made me think, I guess, being older than than I was when I heard it before, I never was able to make the connection of what they were saying, because it's a lot to take in if you really think about it. These people are insinuating that bad things are supposed to happen to poor people. And bad things shouldn't happen to anybody. Because if you take that statement back a couple of years, who knows how many years, it's almost like saying, like, because of someone's color, bad things should happen. Or because of someone's gender, bad things should happen. And what happens when you're the wrong color, gender, and socioeconomic, you know. So it's kind of like, well, this sister saying that makes you really wonder. And I think it's very similar to when Nick Cannon had his situation, and he was, and for me, saying that, if he wanted to separate the classes, it would be, black and white people against, people that are of another descent, And I've actually did DNA testing, because I'm kind of like the black sheep of the family, and I wanted to know what I'm mixed with. I always have people say, like, what are you? What are you mixed with? And I found out that I have Jewish, DNA. So I said, to have so much of a minorities mixed in my blood, maybe that's the reason why I kind of want to make people understand that when you separate people by their economics, their gender, their race, it's as if you're trying to create a different class, and it makes you wonder, why do you feel like you are better? The only thing that should separate people from being good or bad is the fruits of their labor. That's the only thing should determine if someone is bad and should be treated bad, not because they're poor, not because they're a certain race, not because they're a certain gender, and definitely not because they have a certain socioeconomics. Is but let's hear it from the horse's mouth. It's just 1 minute. So at minute 27, I think I left the URL up here if somebody wants to, you know, watch the whole thing.
Middle class lifestyle, so that means I live in a great neighborhood, I have good schools that my children can go to. So you're never going to be rich in this job, so it's not about making the money, it's about choosing to do good for a living, and then being able to have your children in a safe environment.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to mute my mic and then play this again because it probably had a really bad echo. But I mean, I'm not gonna play much. It's just that when you hear this coming from this lady works in HR, at the time of this video, she was doing a presentation for people. I guess like people who work in HR, they kind of do those job fairs. So this kind of seemed like it was one of those job fairs scenarios, and she was asked what are the benefits of being a FBI special agent, and this is her response. So I'm gonna mute it and play it again.
To have an upper middle class lifestyle, so that means I live in a great neighborhood, I have good schools that my children can go to. So you're never going to be rich in this job, so it's not about making the money, it's about choosing to do good for a living, and then being able to have your children in a safe environment. Some of the
So I understand, she was definitely not trying to offend anyone, and maybe most people agree with her with, working for the FBI. Maybe people would say, yeah, you have a upper middle class income, but to then take it a step further and say, I live in a safer neighborhood. That's the benefits of working for the FBI. It kind of just made me feel a little different. Like I don't think she meant to say that. Now the reason why I say that is if we take this back a couple of years ago, they can insinuate that because I'm, a certain race, I get to be in a better neighborhood. Or, it kind of takes you down a hypothetical rabbit hole, that a person can try to assume that crime can be perceived differently if that person is from a different class, race, or gender, right? Because she's saying that, like, money equates to safety. And I beg to differ. I don't think that just because you have a lot of money, you're any safer than someone who don't have money. Because, I mean, maybe you can get up and go fly, or get this car and drive, or get this house and live, but nothing is going to stop you know people who are out there looking for that. They're not going to just say, oh, okay, this is a rich neighborhood, we're not going to go over there and do this, that, and the third. I don't know why one would have that kind of preconceived notion considering their career. But let's take it a step further and say that, for example, there's a female police commander. She's suing for unjustly being fired for being drunk in public. And what she's saying is her male counterparts was not punished at all for DUI. Now you may say, well, what does that have to do with what the lady was saying? Well, she was saying, like, you know, crime has something to do with your socioeconomics. Like, crime has something to do with being poor. So what if you're a woman? You know, so it's kind of like saying, if you have money and you do a crime, it's like saying that people look at it differently than if that person was poor and they did the same crime. So it's, let's say it's the same crime done, but it's done by two different people. One person is poor, one person is rich. From the last lady perspective, she's going to look at it on a lenient for someone who has money versus someone that don't. And I said, well, if you keep on going down the rabbit hole with that kind of conscious or that kind of notion, is like saying that, you know, because I'm a male or I'm a female, you know, I get to be treated better, you know, than you. I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm better, you know. I'm white, I'm black, I'm better. So it's going down the same scenario of separating people based on preconceived notions, and that should never be the case. You should only separate people or classify someone as bad and say they should be treated bad because of the fruits of their labor. Let me tell you why. Let's say for example, hold on a minute. Let's say, for example, that it's like when you hear people say this never happens in this neighborhood until it does. Now, if one takes another step towards the hypothetical rabbit hole, one can try to prohibit one from having education, careers, and ultimately money, so that person can be predestined to live in a poor, aka bad neighborhood, out of torture, pure evil, and preconceived notions. So, you know, there's a order of, you know, people playing around with what just allowing things to happen to people and say, oh, that person is poor, oh, that person is a woman, oh, that person is, you know, whatever. You know, it's not fair. But then let's take a look at it when it's dealing with women, and then we're still staying in the same genre of, you know, public service workers. So I'm gonna mute my mic so you can hear this, and then I'll give you a little bit of perspective on it.
LAPD commander fired after she was caught allegedly drunk in Glendale has taken some new legal action against the department, saying she's being treated unfairly because she's a woman.
NBC4 investigative reporter Eric Leonard joins us now to talk about why this case has so many top-level officers pretty nervous.
Well, Chuck and Colleen, Commander Nicole Maringer has been fighting for months to try to save her job, arguing that male officers caught doing things much worse than she did off-duty have kept their jobs and in some cases were even promoted. Maringer's lawyer says in a new legal filing he believes it's because Maringer is a woman and says the LAPD is very worried her case could expose years of wrongdoing by senior members of the department.
Why are the males in the LAPD being allowed to stay on the job while the woman is fired? That's discriminatory and it's wrong.
Now, Maringer's claim, which is typically required to be filed before a lawsuit, names 6 other LAPD officers, including an assistant chief and 2 commanders, who Maringer says were caught driving drunk off-duty and kept their jobs. The claim also accuses the department of delaying Maringer's ability to challenge her firing in court. Her legal troubles began in April 2018 when she was found asleep in the passenger seat of an unmarked LAPD car in Glendale. She was with an LAPD sergeant who's pleaded not guilty to a DUI charge. Last year, Maringer took legal action against the Glendale Police Department, claiming her detention that day was improper to begin with. An internal LAPD trial board that meets in secret recommended her termination in December. Now, Maringer's firing isn't final, and that's part of why she's filed this legal action, so she can challenge this decision in court. And because of California's strict police privacy laws, what happened during those administrative hearings has been kept secret until now. But Chuck and Colleen, if her case were to go to a civil jury, some at the LAPD have said there's concern that litigation would publicly expose numerous embarrassing DUI and other incidents involving LAPD officers at the highest levels of the department.
Yeah, I'm going to call it right now.
I wanted to play the video again, but something happened. I can actually put the link back up there. But if you guys heard what I heard, because I haven't done any research into that case, so, you know, I hate to make a comment and that just isn't what it is.
An LAPD commander fired.
But it sounds like she was in, it sounds like she was actually like off duty and they caught her, you know, twisted, as we used to say back in the days. You know, she was, you know, and you know, maybe this is a sign of them saying, hey, we care about you, you know, we don't want you to be out in public and doing a smoking Cinderella, or in her case, a drunken Cinderella, where it's just inappropriate to see Cinderella at Disneyland and she's all twisted, falling over with a brown paper bag and, you know what I'm saying, getting her little drink on. It's not real presentable for the girls and boys that look up to her. They may feel like, hey, we can pull us out a brown paper bag with some Coke 45 too. You know, some people, or maybe actually telling her that we love you, we don't want you to just be drinking. You should figure out what is it inside of you that's making you want to stay on that level of intoxication. And doing the other side of the fence would be that she was off of work and no one should be held to such a high standard while they're not even at work. And it's kind of like I read something about this where it's like a forced unemployment. It's like you making the standards so high that people can't, you know, people can't reach it. You know, people can't obtain those goals. It was another example of a company that people were working at a plant, and I think it was a cigarette company. And it was like a no smoking, something awkward, and they couldn't even smoke while they was off. And a couple of people were being caught smoking and were being fired, to where people were just walking off the job because, you know, they couldn't afford to pay everybody, and so instead of just letting folks go, they would have to pay them unemployment. Instead, they just raised the standards, and it became a forced unemployment, to where you don't get any kind of unemployment assistance if you quit or if you're fired. So that's another scenario, is if she's being pushed out of her job, because if she's not on the clock and they caught her, you know, sleeping in her car, and they assume she was drunk or whatever, that's not fair to say, okay, we're gonna let you go. Because if someone is actually driving drunk and get a DUI ticket and don't get fired, I mean, clearly that's not fair. If this is, you got her, she's off the books with her scenario, and then you know, people may be just seeing her co-workers, you know, why are they following her, but whatever, maybe it's a small town. But then when you have someone who's actually caught with a DUI and don't get fired, and it's on the books, you was drunk and they did the breathalyzer on you, because how else do you get a ticket for DUI, and they're not fired, and they're on the same level, you know, commanders, it's it makes you feel like there's some form of preconceived notion that because of not socioeconomics, but because of gender, it's the same crime, but it's treated differently because of the gender. And then if we want to take it a step further, there's another scenario that I came across where a detective is claiming that their co-worker doesn't want to break up with them, and so they started to extort them with sexually explicit photos and physical and emotional abuse to try to get her not to break off their involvement. And she complained to the powers that may be, but they're not doing anything about it. So this is where it can be on the other extreme, where this officer is, you know, just trying to have a sip of, you know, alcohol, which is completely legal. She's of drinking age, and she's being fired, where you have another lady here saying, hey, there's some gender issues going on, and she's being harassed. So I'm gonna mute my mic so you can hear this one as well, and then we can talk a little bit about it.
A Los Angeles police detective suing the department, claiming supervisors failed to act when she alleged a fellow officer was extorting her with sexually explicit photos. This despite California's strict revenge porn laws. Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda has the latest on the case.
It's a case of alleged revenge porn and misconduct and allegations the LAPD didn't do anything about it because it involved one of its own officers. Detective Isabel Villegas today filing a complaint against the LAPD, claiming it ignored her when she told them she was being threatened with violence. Villegas says back in 2013 she got involved in an affair with another officer, Danny Reedy. Villegas says it was consensual at first, but it turned violent, that he beat her at times and circulated sexually explicit photos of her within the LAPD after she broke up with him. Villegas says she reported all of this to the LAPD and it did nothing, and she was transferred out of robbery homicide.
One of the things that hurts so much is that my LAPD family has turned his back against me. To this date, I have not been contacted by phone, email, or text by any LAPD manager to offer me anything.
LAPD officers are required to report known misconduct among their ranks, and they failed to do that in this case.
And the department said today it will not comment on this pending litigation.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Click the ABC7 logo to subscribe to our
You know, the reason why this sounds extremely awkward is because
didn't do anything about it because it involved.
it's because the revenge law. But perhaps this is, you know, something that she doesn't have the physical proof of. Maybe this is like a ruse. Maybe this guy had told one of his friends to tell her that he showed him a picture of her. You understand what I'm saying? In the nude, but he didn't actually show it. And so then he tells his other friends to just laugh. He's like, and done paid them $5 for or whatever, you know. So she may have jumped the gun. Hopefully that's what this scenario is. But it sounds very discouraging because you know, of the revenge law, that you can't break up with someone or someone break up with you and then you try to post their nude photos on Facebook because you're mad. That's supposed to be a punishable crime by like jail time. And you know, officers are not above the law, so I'm assuming that it was just a ruse. Like he just told his friends to say, like, just say it, and they said it to her. And then of course they could come back now and say they never said it or act like they don't even know her, you know, because they don't want to get in trouble, you know, don't want to get into all of that. You know, all they have to do is act like they never, you know, just say you never said that, you know, or whatever, you know. So hopefully that's what this is. But so if we just go to one more case, if we look at one more case, finally there's another police commander that filed a gender discrimination lawsuit. Now this is the case that I mentioned in the last two videos about a commander, a police woman who said that the police force has like a hostility towards women. And this will be a quick video. This is like the last of it right here. But I just want to show this one right here. Now it is one of those automated ones to where it's the computer talking. And you know, nobody's face or anything like that. It's just the computer talking. But let's see what went on with this one. So it, you know, it may sound weird, but let's bear with it for 2 minutes and 13 seconds, okay?
The city of Los Angeles is asking a judge to order an independent psychological examination of a Los Angeles police captain who says she suffered physically and emotionally after a nude photo of a woman was circulated in the workplace amid false claims that the image depicted the plane. Lillian Carranza alleges in her sexual harassment suit filed in Los Angeles Superior Court in January 2019 that LAPD command staff knew the naked image was being circulated within the force, along with disparaging comments about her, but didn't tell the 32-year veteran, who is the commanding officer. In her October 2019 deposition, Carranza said has suffered from headaches, problems sleeping at night, fatigue, lack of appetite, heart palpitations, high blood pressure, heart disease and depression, according to Waterman's court papers. There can be no question that Carranza has placed in It is well settled law that an independent medical examination, and a motion to compel such a test, are appropriate when a party places his or her medical condition at issue, Waterman wrote in his court papers. A hearing on the city's motion is scheduled December 10 before Judge John P. Doyle. Carranza says in a sworn declaration that she first learned of the photo being passed around in November 2018 and that she obtained a copy from a non-LAPD employee. I noted that the facial features of the woman in the picture bore a striking resemblance to me, although the photograph was not actual. In fact, I concluded that my own eye appears to have been photoshopped into the picture. Carranza says that after learning about the widespread circulation of the nude photograph, she became keenly aware that many LAPD employees with whom I interact as I go about conducting my duties are likely to have observed LAPD employees displaying the nude picture or making derogatory comment. Carranza said the dissemination of the photo has left her extremely humiliated and degraded in all my professional interactions, including with my superiors, subordinates, and co-workers. Many department members who Carranza has known for years believe the woman in the image was her, according to the plaintiff, who says she received little support from the LAPD command staff.
If you are struggling to lose
The city of Los Angeles is asking a judge to order an independent psychological examination of a Los Angeles police captain, including with my superiors, subordinates, and co-workers. Many department members who Carranza has known for years believe the woman in the image was her, according to the plaintiff, who says she received little support from the LAPD command staff. Is asking a judge to
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking all that time, but I was on mute. This, the last video that I was playing where the lady with this animated one, she was actually, this is that last one where her and the lady who broke up with that guy, they actually do favor, is how we used to say it back in the days. They look alike. But what she's saying is she went and filed a discrimination suit saying that because of that, this police officer or detective, she's a detective, because of the naked picture that was floating around, she said that she felt like they photoshopped her head on it. The thing is, I was saying that it seems like they're kind of mean-spirited if this is in actuality of how they kind of talk about things, because I was saying earlier that this officer could have started a ruse and just told his friends to pretend like they see a picture of her, but they never saw one, just to make her mad or whatever. But, you know, another scenario is that maybe they had keys to each other's place or something of that sort, and he went into her home and erased her photos or whatever while she was sleeping from a phone or something of that sort. So there's different scenarios that could have happened to why he is not arrested for revenge, you know, laws, penalties for exposing her, you know, photo. But the fact that the other captain, this is a captain, is saying that she felt like they had photoshopped her head onto that woman photo and was harassing her, and she went and filed a sexual harassment suit. And then we also have that captain in Georgia who went and filed a sexual discrimination suit. Saying that the police force has hostility towards women. It really sounds like, you know, there's a misconceived notion that, you know, people are separating people based off of their socioeconomics, race or gender, or then some religious aspect. Is definitely not the way to go. So I just want to leave on this note that thoughts are a powerful tool. Thoughts spoken can be used to build a strong foundation or destroy a weak construction. How you use your thoughts, speech, and actions should never be to hurt those that are the weaker vessel. To make plans to go along with hurting people because that person is poor, woman, black, or all of those is due to a reprobated mind, which is worthy of God's due punishment. So keep that in mind as times are getting rough for everybody, even people with money, whether you are male or whether you're a female. Times are getting rough. And just like during the Bible days when Pharaoh would not let the people go, he just kept on making it rough for them where they had to use, you know, excuse my French, feces to make bricks. Some people say, you know, they were actually just already doing that, but using that type of material, but from what they were saying, like it was just extremely harder. Maybe they had to gather up their own feces where before it was already there, or who knows, maybe they had to go get it from the elephant where before it was already there or something like that, but it was rough. He made it rough to where the people wouldn't even be able to pray because he felt like he was above reproach. And I just want people to keep in mind and just bear with God, because He doesn't want whoever the Pharaoh is, whether it's the government, because a lot of people, a lot of countries look at United States as the popular kid, I guess you could say in so many words. So what's going on here, please believe that it's worse, 100 times worse, other places, whether you're in Europe, Africa, Asia, Antarctica. It's worse on other continents, other countries. It's worse than the United States. And here in the United States, we're having a problem with drugs and homelessness. And that was a problem way before Trump got into the office and before the pandemic, which a lot of people were just not aware of, because just as long as the government kind of seems like it works, like as long as you're quiet with whatever crime you're doing and nobody is complaining, it's out of sight, out of mind. But now that the shield has been, the sheets have been broken, and everything is being revealed, especially as pertains that it's more poor people than it is upper middle class. You know, I mean, if you're poor, it doesn't matter if you're upper poor or middle poor. I mean, it's poor. So, you know, what's before the middle class is the lower class, the poor. And whether this first lady knows it or not, there's more poor people than it is, you know, upper middle class, as she was saying. And another thing I just wanted to make a point of, you know, a lot of people choose money over their health because it's hard to wing both of those, but it's not going to do you any good to have a lot of money, but then you have to throw it out the window when you give it to the doctor, when you have to have mandatory appointments every month or week, every two bi-weekly, you know, you up in the doctor office, because, you know, you're living a constant dissonance. You live in a disconnected life. You're making it easy for yourself to sleep at night by saying, oh, those poor people, they deserve to be bad, be treated bad, and knocked over the head while you trying to just, you know, make $1.15, you know, and then try to make it make some sense. So be careful with those kind of folks, ladies and gentlemen. It don't work like that. It's not because you have money. That doesn't mean that people who don't have money are less than you or beneath you. That's very mean-spirited and evil, you know what I'm saying, to say. But, like, I just want to thank those people who saw my little bit of views and said, hey, I'm going to come in and support this sister. I just want to thank you so much for considering me like that. I definitely appreciate it. And, you know, so let's just take it a step further. You know, anybody want to cash at me, you know, I take the things that jingle, but I'd rather have the things that fold. If you give to me, you know, I can definitely help other people that are worse off than I am, because even though, you know, I feel like I could be in a better situation, I'll be fooling myself about it and admit that there's people that's worse off. And then I could definitely be able to produce more content on a regular basis and everything. I do have a website where I put articles. I kind of write. I like to write. It's cathartic for me. I want to do like plays and movies and stuff like that, because you have a lot of people out here in society that want to speak for women, be that woman's voice, like T.D. Jakes and Tyler Perry. But as you can see, Tyler Perry is kind of becoming more like a clown. Like he's kind of speaking for women, but then in the same sense, he's kind of clowning women at the same time, and it seems very disrespectful in my eyes because he's actually making a big buck out of it, big buck out of our demise. And I don't know if people recognize it. There was a point in history where it was more people of my shade than it was of people of this guy's shade. And then if you look now, we only make up about 10% of the population. You know, there was a time it's more Hispanics than it is, you know, African Americans, or what some people prefer to say is blacks, because when you put African Americans, some people think that means people who just came from Africa and they're here. Those are just Africans in America. They're not African American, even if they're nationalists or got green cards. They're not Asian Americans. They're just Asians in America. All right. African Americans mean that you have a heritage. You understand that you were not here other than out of a crime and a very bad scenario called chattel slavery that was very awful. But during that time, you know, we made like 80% of the population in the country, and now we're just 10%. So how did that happen? A lot of people would say, well, the government has the apex reality and black man has the stupidity mentality, to where, you know, the black man is not, he can actually be very successful by the demise of the black woman. And so the apex would say, from their reality, why do they care? I mean, they don't, you know, just let them take care of themselves, in so many words. And you know, black men, unfortunately, the number one killer is black men. And women, it's the same. And it's not really, we can't just because someone else's opinion of you is not positive. I just really pray that people understand that your opinion of yourself is what matters. I've never felt as if someone is going to care about me more than I care about myself. I mean, you look up here so you can see me, but I've never in my life felt like or had the unction that there's someone else out there that cares more about me than I do. That means that if someone has a negative opinion about me, my opinion about myself is the one that's going to make the buck and bank that I can cash at the bank. I can't cash your opinion about me, whether it's him or whoever else, you know. As it pertains to my life, because some would say, well, why you're not getting up there on your soapbox talking about how black women are becoming extinct as we speak. I believe that I've actually done my repentance, and I, you know, have my life ready and prepared, because to be absent in the body means to be present with the Lord. This scenario has been going on way before I was born, and it has a lot to do with the black men are not being held accountable for what they are doing to us. And things are going to get to where it's not going to stop or slow down, you know. And it's the law has to be adjusted to where we can hunt and kill black men that are hunting and killing us, black women. And excuse that background noise. Again, I want to say that the law has to change to where black women can hunt down and kill black men that are hunting and killing us, because that's the problem we're having. You know, there's self-defense laws, but what if he's just stalking you, calling your job, telling them to fire you, or harassing your boss to harass you, so your boss gets to the point to where they let you go? now you're being forced again to be in a low socioeconomic scenario that cuts your ability to be able to eat, but it actually puts you in a situation that he needs, because a lot of our black men are human trafficking. And you know that if he stalks you, if you told him you don't want to be with him, but he feels as if he can't live his life without being hostile towards you, that's the number one indicator that this man is trying to human traffic you, aka make you a slave. And a slave is someone that doesn't get paid for their work. Slaves were very much needed. The reason why this country is so rich is because of slave labor. And some people believe that that's the reason why things are turning the way they are, because it's like bad luck or omen of the slavery that they did. You know, no one else built their country in that manner. The Europeans, when you say Europe and you want to know how did they build theirs, you have to understand with history, cattle slavery from African Americans or from blacks wasn't the first form of slavery. They used their own kind, but they got sick and they didn't do well in the sun. We was because of our color, we tend to do better in the sun, and we naturally did not get sick as quick as they do. So do understand that evil doesn't discriminate for anyone's gender, race, or socioeconomic. Evil is as evil does, is what I like to say. And some people say, you know, misery loves company, and that's exactly what it is. I think we just have a lot of black men suffering mental health issues, and that, you know, they technically don't get chastised. They don't get checked. No one can check a black man. You know, if you ever find yourself around a black man and you feel like that, you know, whenever I'm around him, I feel like I'm going to call the police. That's a good indication that you need to call the police and you need to get a gun and you need to keep him away from you. But understand that with a gun, you know, there's self-defense laws to where you can't initiate a fight with someone and shoot them dead. You would do day for day and hour for hour. And for real, we don't want that. So that's why I said laws need to be changed, because a man or a woman, no one should be able to harass people to where, you know, you can't keep up your economic status, your health, and your well-being. You know, women, I think number one cause is heart disease. And like I said, this stuff like this man is setting up a ruse and making it seem like he's passing out her, you know, naked picture. And I mean, I don't know what's going on. Like I said, I didn't look into this, but you know, this is just doesn't seem like a good situation for anybody to be in. Not even him, if you look at it, because another woman can come in that he feels attracted to, and she kind of likes him, and then she hears about how he did her, and you know. So people, please leave me a comment down in the comment section of what y'all thought about this video, your thoughts, your opinions, and you know, what y'all think this world is coming to. Because, you know, before we were just laughing at black men when they was talking about, you know, they gonna do this, that, and the third. Now we see our kids are missing by the groves, and a lot of our sisters are gone due to, you know, domestic violence, gun violence, and it's just not fair. And it's going to get rough, because as we saw with Pharaoh, and whoever Pharaoh is, if Pharaoh is the government, because the government goes to everybody age look how the Chinese women got their little scenario put together, but what happened to black women? And then, you know, they want to question the Black Lives That Matter woman to, you know, why she's not coming to the rescue. She's like quiet. And all I was saying was is that I know it's like you'll look at a sister and say, oh, you don't have a man, so you must be gay. Like I don't date, but I don't jump on the bandwagon of gay women, and I know people probably don't like that because I'm really on the bandwagon for our trans men. I always felt very connected to trans men ever since I was a little girl. And I realized that, hey, you could put lipstick on and make yourself look different. And I noticed that men who did that got treated really bad. And that's how I've always been treated. I always, let me say it this way. I know people probably gonna want to egg me or whatever, but the Spirit of the Lord led me to believe that I live my life almost as a trans woman. And it's like, you know, when they get seen on the street, it's almost like, you know, it's set. And so almost what I thought was just me is look like it's the same thing for other black women, where it's like we're being penalized for being ourselves. We can't change who we are. It's like even if we did just want to live our lives as men and maybe become trans men, it looked like we're still not doing okay, because the number one killer for black men is black men. So women, I don't know what we're gonna do, but I mean, y'all give me y'all comments, like I say, and also give me y'all Cash App as well, because I'm gonna take it. All right, so thank you so much for staying tuned. Go ahead and give your, you know, friends and family this who you think would be interested. I switched up the platform a little bit because I was just reading the news, but I said, well, you know, if I ever want to kind of go back and kind of look at what I did, it's not real easy because I was just on there reading for whatever. And there's some things I kind of want to go back to, and I said, well, you know what, I need to split this up and kind of make it a little bit easier to go back to. But in the meantime, family, stay blessed. God loves you, and I love you even as well. I'm not gonna say even more, because only God can love you more than yourself. But don't ever think somebody loves you more than yourself, man. You just fooling yourself. That's a ruse. But God bless you. Until next time, stay blessed. Thank you.